Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel Simple Food Channel. Today I will share with you a dish combining meat, straw mushrooms and tofu. Before we begin, please like, share and subscribe to support me. Thank you. Okay, let's go. The ingredients for this dish, as I mentioned, will include 300 grams of meat, 300 grams of straw mushrooms and 4 pieces of tofu. The familiar seasonings include sugar, salt, fish sauce, ground pepper and seasoning powder, and the important but minor ingredients such as green onions, shallots, garlic and herbs. All are cleaned and sliced as shown, or according to each person's preference. After preparing all the ingredients, put the pot on the stove and wait for it to heat up. Put the meat in first and stir-fry it. Then add the green onions, shallots and garlic and stir-fry together. Stir-fry evenly many times until the meat is cooked and fragrant. Continue to add the straw mushrooms and stir-fry together. Also stir-fry many times. Continue to add the green onions, shallots, garlic and herbs. Continue to stir-fry evenly. Season with sugar, salt, fish sauce and pepper. Add a little oyster sauce and filtered water and bring to a boil. Continue to add the herbs and ground pepper and turn off the stove. So there is a simple dish for the meal. Very easy, right? I think anyone can do it, even do it much better than me. In this video, I would like to share with you the story of the West in the midst of the vortex of poverty in the flood season. On the double crop rice field in Nan Ho Lap Commune 10 Than, Long In Province, Mr. Tam Tong, 52 years old, stood still, watching the water shimmering in the afternoon sun. This year's flood flooded the fields, but the alluvium was thin and there were not many fish and shrimp left. It's been more than 10 years since there was a big flood, but the benefits are not the same as before, he said. His family is one of the few households that still maintain the custom of living with the flood in the middle of the fields that have been completely diked to grow 3 rice crops. Once the most prosperous season of the year, floods now only make farmers more worried. The fields are no longer bathed in alluvium. Linfish and perch are becoming rare. Rice farmers are not making a profit. In many places, fishermen have given up their jobs. Children have left their hometowns to go to the city to make a living. A decade of poor floods is changing life in the West, where people once considered water as a source of life. On the dike separating the 3-crop rice field and the 2-crop rice field that is releasing water, Mr. Moy points to the vast rice field. In the past, floods covered the roofs of houses, but our people still lived thanks to fish and alluvium. Mr. Moy's family has been farmers for generations. He said that in the past, the people of Dong Thap Moy called the 8th to 10th lunar month the flood season. Water from upstream flooded the fields and then receded slowly, not as rapidly as in the central and northern regions. At that time, there were no dikes. The whole village was submerged. People traveled by boat. If someone died in a family, they had to wait for the flood to recede before burying them. Sometimes they built a wooden frame and placed the coffin on the shelf to wait for the flood season to pass. There was a year when the flood was only a few inches away from submerging the roof. I had to dig a hole in the roof to bring the boat in. At night, I tied a rope to my daughter's legs for fear she would fall asleep and fall into the water, Mr. Moore remembers. But when the flood was big, people did not fight the flood but lived with it. People could see how high the roots of the kana tree and the sespen bushes grew and knew that the flood would only rise to that level. Before the 1990s, farmers still planted trong hung seasonal rice, sowing it from the 4th lunar month. As the water level rose, the rice stalks grew to that level and were harvested at Tet. There were no wells or water filters, so people just scooped water from the fields into jars, let the alum settle, and then boiled it to drink. The fields had little fertilizer, so flood water was both a source of life and a cleaner. In Mr. Moy's memory, flood season is a season of plenty. Early in the morning, he only needs to cast his net 50 meters into the field, and half an hour later he has dozens of kilos of linfish or perch. Fishing for a day is enough for a pot of rice. The flood brings with it wild vegetables, water lily, sesbania, and water chives, which have become specialties of the western region. That season, people lived well during the 3 months of flooding, he said. Floods also carry alluvium, helping the fields to rest and then revive. At the end of September, the flood recedes, people sow the winter-spring crop, and harvest in mid-January. Then the fields rest for a few months before the summer-autumn crop in April. When the rice is harvested, the water returns, people pump and weave simultaneously, saving costs and preparing for the new crop. In years of heavy floods, when the rice harvest is good, fertilizer costs are reduced by about 30%, and pathogens and weeds are washed away by the water. Since 2011, the floods have gradually decreased. The fields are no longer bathed in alluvium, the soil is hard, fertilizer costs have increased, and rice prices have dropped. Mr. Moy used to switch to growing lotus, but then gave up because the plants withered when his neighbors sprayed pesticides. Now he has only a little over a hectare of fields left. He also grows jackfruit and raises cows to survive. From fish to vegetables, he now has to go to the market to buy everything. The water is shallow, the fish are shallow. More than 100 kilometers from Mr. Moy's house, Mr. Bela, 54 years old, and his younger brother drove a boat to the flooded fields in Binh Than Commune Dong Thap, close to the Cambodian border. The two brothers set more than 100 traps, a type of trap called 12 Gates of Hell because no fish can escape, but by noon, they only caught a few small loach, a few shrimp and crabs. In the past, we set 150 traps, each day we caught 20 to 30 kilos of fish. Now the number has decreased tenfold, Mr. Bela said. Mr. Bela's family has been fishing for 3 generations. His father, Mr. Nam Lech, used to fish in Tonle Sap Lake, Cambodia, and then returned to Dong Thap Moi to live on a floating house. 20 years ago, flood season was a profitable time. Snakes crawled up the hills, and there were so many giant catfish and linfish that boats had to line up to buy them. Now, he only earns 100,000 dong a day, enough for the market. There are no more fish in the river, only water, Mr. Nam Lech said sadly. Not only is there little alluvium and fish, floods also cause landslides and major damage in the west, in Tanchoanjiang. The water level was 0.75 meters higher than last year, causing 250 houses to be flooded, many roads were cut off, and people had to travel by boat. Many weak dikes in Long An and Dong Thap broke, causing nearly 1,000 hectares of third-season rice to be lost and 700 hectares of fruit trees to be damaged. Leaving home to make a living elsewhere, independent experts on the ecology of the Mekong Delta analyzed that floods depend on upstream rainfall, which usually fluctuates 15% per year and can vary up to 30% between decades. This year, due to La Nina lasting until December, heavy rains caused floods, but water levels in Tanchoancho Dock were still lower than in 2000 and 2011. Over the past 30 years, the closed dike system serving the third rice crop has caused a sharp decrease in water storage capacity. Long Zion Quadrangle has only 4.7 billion cubic meters left, Dong Thap Moi 6.5 billion. Previously, the tide from the sea followed 7 river branches to the fields, regulating the flow. Now the closed dike and sluice cause the tide to be concentrated, flowing straight into the center, while the upstream water has no place to be stored, and flows downstream. When two water sources meet in the middle of the delta, the river water level rises. The fields and gardens are surrounded by dikes, so the water cannot drain and overflows into the urban areas. In Kendo, the Ninkyu area closes the dike, and the water flows to Bintu, while the middle of the delta is deeply flooded. Many coastal fields in the freshwater area remain dry. Annual floods from rivers flowing into the sea create moderately salty water, rich in alluvium, nourishing coastal ecosystems. Thanks to that, the delta's marine fishery output is equivalent to the total output of the remaining regions. Floods also provide fresh water in the dry season, balance salinity and fresh water, enrich fields and gardens, and wash away alum and toxins in the soil. Lacking alluvium, the empty river starves water, and takes the soil from the banks to fill it up, causing increased erosion. Only people living in flood-affected areas can clearly feel these benefits. In the early afternoon of November, heavy rain caused the floating house to sway, so Mr. Nam Lech and his wife had to use a winch to anchor it. After 3 generations of fishing, seeing their grandchild studying in a solid house, he felt a little relieved. Being old and suffering from diabetes, he wants to rest, but after dozens of poor flood seasons, life is still difficult. In recent days, an acquaintance in Qingjiang called to invite him to set traps to catch crabs and sea fish. Mr. Namlech said that the river has run out of fish, so he has to go to the sea, where there is still a lot of seafood to fish. Okay, that's all I want to share with you in this video. The information is for reference only and was collected by me. Before saying goodbye, please like, share and subscribe to my channel. My channel is Simple Food Channel. Thank you very much and I hope to see you again in the next videos. Bye.